Hello, my name is Barnaby Lennon, and today we're going to learn the countries of Africa. It's helpful if you yourself have got a blank map so you can fill in the names as I go along. So here we are. Here's Africa, here's Europe, and between the two is the Mediterranean Sea. There. Over here, this is the Atlantic. Down here, this is the Indian Ocean. And this stretch of water, which separates Africa from Asia, is the Red Sea. So Mediterranean, Atlantic, Indian Ocean, and then Red Sea coming down the middle here. So we're going to start in North Africa, and we'll begin with Morocco, and then this very large country, Algeria, and a slightly smaller country here, Tunisia, and then working east we come to an enormous country again, Libya, and then finally here in northeast Africa we have Egypt. And all of these countries have two things in common. First of all, they're all countries that were conquered by the Arab population which came from the east here after 642 AD. So they tend to be ethnically Arab rather than African. And secondly, they're all on the northern edge of the Sahara Desert. The very northern strip here tends to be a Mediterranean type climate. Cool in the winter, hot in the summer, and with some rainfall in the winter. But the southern part of these countries is very much in the Sahara Desert. And that's why these countries are large. Quite honestly, there's not much going on south of the coastal strip in terms of agriculture, with the exception of Egypt, where farmers are able to cultivate all the way down the River Nile, which of course provides the life of Egypt. It's the reason why Egypt was an ancient empire about 5,000 years ago. And this is the River Nile coming through Egypt. The Nile, which might be the longest river in the world. It's a choice between either the Nile or the Amazon. And here on the corner of Egypt is the Red Sea, and between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean goes the Suez Canal, so that ships can come all the way from the east up the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal and through the Mediterranean to get to Europe. Now there's a group of countries which are called the Maghreb, and that's spelt M-A-G-H-R-E-B. The Maghreb. And the Maghreb countries are Morocco, Algeria, Libya and Tunisia, and one other country which we're now going to mark on, and that's here. A country which sounds as if it should be in Eastern Europe rather than in Africa, and that's Mauritania. So that's Mauritania there. And you'll see that we've left one country out here. This is the Western Sahara. A country which is absolutely completely desert and has a very small population, and it's completely controlled by Morocco. So that border there hardly exists. Western Sahara, a country controlled by Morocco. Now we come to the group of countries on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, and because they're also largely desert, they tend to have quite large areas. Starting on the west coast, here is Senegal. And then we come to this large country of Mali. And then next to Mali, this large country, Niger, Niger, and then next to Niger comes Chad. Next to Chad comes Sudan. So those are all countries on the edge of the Sahara Desert. Here on the very east is a little country relative to those others called Eritrea. Eritrea. So those are the countries on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, and those are called the Sahel countries, which is spelled S-A-H-E-L, the Sahel countries on the southern edge of the Sahara Desert. Now let's have a look at the West African countries in this area here. There are some islands just off the west coast of Africa called the Cape Verde Islands, used in the slave trade, and then here in the middle of Senegal is a small country along a river called Gambia. Next to Gambia is another small country there, that's called Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau. And next to Guinea-Bissau, confusingly, is a country called Guinea. There. And then south of Guinea are two other quite small countries. There is a country called Sierra Leone. And next to Sierra Leone, another country called Liberia, which means land of the free. It was a country which, after 1820, was colonised by slaves freed from the United States, who established a country there. And the capital, Monrovia, is named after James Monroe, who was then President of the United States. Next to Liberia is the Ivory Coast, quite often called the Côte d'Ivoire. The Ivory Coast, or Côte d'Ivoire. Next to the Côte d'Ivoire, Ghana. Next to Ghana, a long thin country called Togo. Next to Togo, another long thin country called Benin. B-E-N-I-N. So there we have Senegal, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Côte d'Ivoire, or the Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, and Benin. Then next, as we travel in this direction, is Nigeria. Nigeria, which is the most populous country in Africa, with 170 million people, the biggest country in Africa in terms of population. Here is Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso there. And that's the eastern border of Nigeria. Now let's go over to East Africa and have a look at some of the countries in East Africa. Here is Lake Victoria, one of the largest lakes in the world. And next to Lake Victoria is Kenya, where the earliest known human beings evolved, a country which won 11 medals in the London Olympics, all in running events, very famous for producing outstanding runners. And then next door to Kenya is Uganda, and south of the lake is Tanzania, a country which used to be called Tanganyika and was a merger between Tanganyika and Zanzibar, which is this little island here, to create the country of Tanzania. And then two very, very small countries tucked in between Uganda and Tanzania are here, Rwanda and Burundi. Rwanda and Burundi, two very small little countries there. Now we come to this part of Africa. This is called the Horn of Africa, this section here, which looks like the horn of a rhinoceros, and this is Somalia. There's a little tiny country there called Djibouti, which is spelled D-J-I-B-O-U-T-I. Djibouti here. And then a large country of Ethiopia. Now Africa is basically a pretty flat continent compared to other continents, but one of the areas of mountains are here, the Ethiopian highlands, where rain falls in the monsoon and flows down to feed the River Nile, going up through Sudan and Egypt. And then south of Sudan here is a country called South Sudan, a new country which split away from Sudan in 2011, so it's a pretty new country. So that's East Africa. Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda and Burundi. That's East Africa. Now we come to Central Africa over here, which has an equatorial climate. The equator comes through this part of Africa. So these are places which are hot and wet all year round. And we start here with Cameroon. Cameroon, which is famous for its national football team. And then next to Cameroon, the Central African Republic. And then, to confuse us all, is a very large country called the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Democratic Republic of Congo used to be called Zaire. And next to the Democratic Republic of Congo, a country simply called Congo. Next to Congo is a country called Gabon, and then next to Gabon, a country called Equatorial Guinea, very small, tucked in there, Equatorial Guinea. Here, just off the coast of Equatorial Guinea, are these little islands. They are called Sao Tome and Principe. Sao Tome and Principe, those little islands just off the coast of Africa. So you'll notice that we've got essentially here in East Africa three countries which begin with a C: Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. 4 C's there. 5 if you include Chad. That only leaves Southern Africa down here. And in Southern Africa we start with two gigantic countries, Angola here, which is one of the world's fastest growing economies, very rich in oil and diamonds, and Namibia. Namibia, which is mainly desert, the Kalahari Desert, and the desert on the coast, the west coast, is called the Namib. So it's the Kalahari and the Namib Desert. So these areas are both pretty dry, much like the Sahara Desert in the north. And now we come to 4 landlocked countries, that is, countries which are not on the sea at all. They don't have any border with the sea, they have no coastline, and there are 4 of them, 4 landlocked countries. Here is Zambia. Zambia, very rich in copper. Then Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe, where the Victoria Falls are, famous waterfall. And then Botswana. And then here, all the way along this lake, which is called Lake Malawi, is Malawi. There is Malawi, all the way along there. And then here on the coast is a very large country called Mozambique. Mozambique, which used to be Portuguese. Here is Madagascar. Big island in the Indian Ocean, and then just to the north of Madagascar are a group of islands called the Seychelles. And then that really leaves down here South Africa. South Africa, which has the largest economy in Africa, where the Dutch settled after 1652, which suffered from apartheid, the division of the different racial groups between 1947 and 1990. And here at the tip of South Africa, a famous place, the Cape of Good Hope. And inside South Africa, 2 very small countries that were set up for particular groups of people that lived in those areas. Lesotho, which is spelled Lesotho. Here, Swaziland, which was a country set up to provide a base for the Swazi people. So Lesotho and Swaziland. So that's Africa.